What's up? A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday. Going to have a good show. Yesterday, we talked about, in my opinion, 6 position battles that I thought were all but locked up after the Seattle Seahawks preseason game with the Titans. But today, we're going to flip it. 4 position grabs that I still think are up for grabs. And we'll talk about that and dive through what is the most interesting position battle the Titans still have going on with their roster as we approach. We're actually in the last week of training camp. There are 2 practices this week. We'll talk about the schedule here a little bit later. We're going to have a good conversation about position battles up for grabs. What do you guys, the fan base, find the most interesting? And then, Jack, we've got like potentially 7 to 8 jobs that we're talking through today. And we'll hear from the head coach a couple times about players that are working for those 7 to 8 jobs. Is it going to be 7 jobs or is it going to be 8? Like, will they keep an extra player at a specific position as well? So we'll do all that, and then we'll throw shade at the end of the show like we always do on Tuesday mornings. So if everybody has a great start to their week on Monday, we're going to have a big show today, and then tomorrow as the Titans get back on the practice field to wrap up the last week of training camp. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Jack, welcome in. Let's get this thing off and rolling on a Tuesday.
Man, football's so close I can actually taste it. I mean, we are almost there, but it is Tuesday today, and we have a lot to react to. Obviously, cut down day is coming up on the horizon. Austin mentioned it at the top of the show. You know, who are they going to keep? Who are they going to get rid of? It's going to be a pretty tight deal. We're going to jump into all that stuff today. So y'all are here for a good one. I can assure you that much. While you guys are filing in, I encourage you all to like the show, drop a thumbs up, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. If you like the show, that helps us grow, helps us reach new audience members, and ultimately it helps us take the temperature of the Titans fan base. And we want to do all those things. So please like the show on the way in. If you're watching on Facebook, I remind you that sharing is caring. If you could share that show to just one of your Titans Facebook groups, that would help us out a lot. We would love to get in front of more people's eyes ahead of the season. So if you're watching on Facebook, please share the show into at least one of your Titans Facebook groups. That would be a big help. And you can comment when you've done it in the chat, so I can give you some props. And if you're watching on YouTube, tap that bell icon at the top of your screen to turn your notifications on. With cut down day coming up, you're not going to want to miss a thing. A to Z Sports has you covered. Boots on the ground at the facility. We're going to have all the latest updates, so turn those notifications on so you're in the loop and you know exactly who's going to be on the team heading into that week 1 game in Chicago. Finally, if you're watching on Twitch, text that Twitch link around to a Titans text group. Text it to a buddy at work. Text it to a buddy who might be getting ready for work, who's a little tired this morning, needs to wake up a little bit, and has had questions about the roster. We're going to hopefully answer a bunch of those today. So, Austin, with all that said, let's get the show on the road.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Jack Ginger, the Titan Up Podcast, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. Got to thank our sponsors. They make it happen for us, and they help out all of you. Like Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, and Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. You can do that by checking out our link at fbhp.com/ATOZ. So, Jack, Monday, Sam and I walked through 6 position battles that I thought were all but locked up. You know, there's still some sliver of an opening as injuries can occur, but I think they're all but locked up. So what's up, everybody? Welcome here in the chat. Matthew says, what's up? So make sure you hit that like button. So those, just to kind of give a summary of yesterday's show, I thought it was a really good show. So if you didn't watch it, go back and watch it on the same place you're watching right now. So the 6 jobs that I thought are all locked up, all but locked up. Right guard, Dylan Radins. I think, Jack, would you agree Dylan Radins is the starting right guard for this football team right now?
Yeah, just de facto starting right guard. Not a whole lot of competition behind him to really push for that spot. So, yeah, of course, Dylan Radins at right guard.
Okay, cool. I think 7th-round rookie Jalen Harrell is on this football team. Now, that's something that Sam and I agree with. I can take it a step further. I like Jalen Harrell throughout the year more than I like Rashad Weaver. So I think Jalen Harrell could be edge 3, maybe not on August 20th, but maybe on September 20th, he could be edge 3. So I think Jalen Harrell is squarely on this football team.
Yeah, nearly impossible to keep him off after what he did on Saturday. I mean, that guy, I love that he plays with a chip on his shoulder. He obviously has NFL bloodlines. And, him just saying, I thought his quote that, hey, like, sure, I led Michigan in sacks last year. I was probably the best pass rusher on a national championship team, but none of that matters anymore. I got to go out there and prove it. Seventh rounder, he's playing like he's got a chip on his shoulder, and I think he's going to make an impact this season. So, yeah, I'm excited to see him.
All right, so we agree on that one. I think Jaquan Jackson is wide receiver 6 with what he's been able to do in the return game. Also, nearly 60 yards in receiving. I think we both believe your guy Chance Campbell out of Ole Miss is inside linebacker 3. Mason Rudolph is and has been quarterback number 2 this entire time. And Sam and I both agree on that. The one thing that Sam and I we're on opposite sides of is I think Julius Chestnut is in the driver's seat for running back 3. Sam still believes it's Hassan Haskins. It's literally like you take the gross ability of Chestnut as a running back and the gross ability of Hassan Haskins as a special teamer. Then you take the opposite of both guys. What's the net? Like, who is the net positive winner between Chestnut and Haskins when you put running back and special teams ability in the middle and come out with the net? So I think it's Chestnut. Sam thinks it's Haskins still. Jack, I don't know what you think on that one.
I'm siding with Chestnut. I mean, it's a game. It's a case by case, game by game, practice by practice thing, though. And Julius Chestnut did have a big one on Saturday, and I think that put him in the lead. So yeah, I'm on your side on the Chestnut Haskins debate.
All right, so those are the position battles we talked through yesterday. Now we've got 4 that I still think are up for grabs throughout the roster today. But let's hear from Brian Callahan. This was Sunday after the game on the goal of this team and what they're trying to do 3 weeks from now as they go to Chicago to face Caleb Williams and the Bears.
What has to happen most for this team at this point over these next 3 weeks to be ready for that day?
That's a good question. That's a deep question. I think there's, we got to continue to see improvement, from really all spots. I don't think we're a finished product by any stretch. And as most teams do the early part of the season, you start to find out more about your team. And so those first couple of weeks of the season, you're learning about what kind of team you have every year. And I think every year is a new year. And so it's that opening month of the season is always very revealing in a lot of ways. But we have a couple weeks left to continue to get better. We have a lot of work still to do this week. We'll have some situational work we got to focus on at the end of the week because we pick up an extra day in the practice schedule. But I just think that we got to keep kind of our nose to the grindstone and keep working, keep coaching, keep getting better because that's what the good teams do. And I think that we have a chance to be a pretty good team, but we got to keep proving it.
So a chance to be a pretty good team from the head coach there. I'm glad he's confident, but they've got the towards the back end of the roster with some big decisions they have to make. So out of the gates here, we're going to get the chat more involved this morning than they already have been to this point. So Jack, we're going to go ahead and get to our first question. We want to ask you guys here watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, what's the most interesting position battle still up for grabs to end training camp? What's the most interesting Titans position battle up for grabs still to end training camp? We have 4 that we're going to walk through, but we want to get to your answers first, see where you guys take us here on this. But first, I do want to tell everybody about our great training camp sponsor this year, and that is Smoky Mountain Tops. If you're thinking about updating your kitchen or bath countertops, call the pros at Smoky Mountain Tops. They're family owned and operated for over 30 years, and Smoky Mountain Tops has installed over 100,000 projects. If you've been to Bridgestone Arena or Neyland Stadium, you've seen Smoky Mountain Tops work, and they would love the opportunity to earn your business. Smoky Mountain Tops is proud to offer the luxurious handstone Apimio quartz collection seen in both Nashville and Knoxville studios. Handstone quartz is known for quality and exceptional design with over 50 colors and unique patterns to draw your inspiration from. So call Smoky Mountain Tops to schedule an appointment to see the beautiful handstone Apimio quartz. Phone number is 615-922-6539. You can also email Christy Banks. Her email is right there on the screen for you. You can check them out online at SmokyMountainTops.com. But make sure when you do, you tell them you heard about them on A to Z Sports. So, Jack, I will send you to the chat. The most interesting Titans position battle still up for grabs is what? according to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
Travion's hitting leadoff today. He's saying outside linebacker. IR Hoshi agrees. Willie Madden's also on linebacker. Scott Weaver believes it's wide receiver and who the Titans might keep, whether 6 or 7. Who's that 6? Who's that 7? ILB 4, wide receiver 6. Outside and inside linebacker. Inside linebacker. We've got inside linebacker. A lot of linebacker answers coming in here. Wide receiver from Edward. Titans Kyle's on linebacker. Matt's interested in the corner room. Very interesting situation going on over there. Wide receiver room. Eric Castillo says tight end 3. Who's it going to be? David Martin Robinson could get it. DMR has impressed over the last few weeks. Linebacker or safety. Whether or not they keep 6 or 7 wide receivers.
Let's pause there for a second, Jack, because 7th wide receiver is not on our list of 4 position groups that still have battles going.
No.
What are your thoughts? Because we both agree Jaquan Jackson is wide receiver 6, right? If Jack was to pick a 7th wide receiver, who would the 7th wide receiver be on the Titans 53-man roster to start the season?
Be that junkyard dog Mason Kinsey, baby. I mean, seriously, like you don't have a whole lot of options behind Jaquan Jackson. Kiaris Jackson has looked great in kick return situation. He really has. But if Tajay Spears is your guy, I don't know, what the point is on having Kiaris Jackson back there. It'd be nice to get him on the practice squad. But Austin, I think there's a legitimate chance they keep 7 wide receivers because of the D-Hop injury situation. You don't want to head into week 1 with 6 and D-Hop kind of on a flimsy knee a little bit. Like I think that there's a real chance they do keep 7 wide receivers, at least to start the season. Now that could change, I imagine, once D-Hop gets back to full strength. It'll probably be a 6-man wide receiver room. But heading into week 1, I do think that there's a legitimate chance that they could keep 7 wide receivers. So that's going to be something I'm keeping an eye on as well.
All right. So remember, Kiaris Jackson has a knee bruise. And if you remember anything, A.J. Brown, I want to say in the 2020 season, also had the knee bruise. I can't remember which year that was. It might have been 2020 when he had the knee bruise that he played through. Was in obvious pain. It was just about every time A.J. Brown, every third reception he had, it was like he was on his fists and knees and had to like slowly get up, and everybody was like half freaking out, panic attack when 11 was like that. So Kiaris Jackson, knee bruise, not long-term, not super serious, but probably not going to play this week or practice much this week. So that hurts him quite a bit. But I agree with you. I think it's Mason Kinsey. I was going back and forth with some people on Twitter about this on Saturday night during the game. And it's the fact of remembering what wide receiver number 7 is there for. Because Kyle Phillips, I still think, I used to say Kyle Phillips was the 6th best receiver on the team, but now I think Jaquan Jackson has taken him over because he's been more productive catching passes. So I still think Kyle Phillips might be the 7th best receiver on the team, but the 7th receiver is not going to play a lot of offensive snaps. He shouldn't. And so I think it's the fact that Mason Kinsey is going to be able to do a lot of other jobs where Kyle Phillips has no other jobs. Mason Kinsey can return punts. He's currently listed as the starter on the unofficial depth chart. I watched a special teams period in joint practice with the Seahawks, Jack, where they were working on Titans kickoff coverage and Seahawks return coverage. Mason Kinsey was on kickoff cover team and was one of the first guys down there every rep that he took to try to make a tackle. So I think Kinsey's got a lot of jobs. Kyle Phillips doesn't. So I would say yes, Kinsey with 7 if they keep 7.
And Mason Kinsey's probably not ever going to be able to help you out at the wide receiver spot. But like you mentioned, special team stuff is where he really chips in. And Titans fans can make their jokes, whatever, about Mason Kinsey. That dude plays every snap like it's his last. He leaves absolutely nothing out on the field. So I think that's a good mentality to have. It's kind of one of the last receivers, and him just being around a little bit longer than some of these guys, I think gives him an edge there too. So Mason Kinsey would be my 7th. Let's get back into the chat here real quick. We've
going to the most interesting position battles still on the roster. There's a lot of comments since we took our wide receiver 7 tangent.
Yeah, and I'll pick up with Jody Newell, who says linebackers. We've got linebackers, receivers, wide receiver 7, OLB if Weaver continues to struggle. Last 2 inside linebacker spots, definitely something I'm looking out for, Chris Jump. And DeMario says cornerback depth. I'm going to pull up Chris's comment here.
Okay.
Because I think this is a, in my opinion, the most competitive battle left going right now. A lot of different guys, a lot of different situations, right? Like, I mean, James Williams is a guy that might be on the outside looking in. He's changed positions. He's looked good, though, in limited, in some time out in the preseason.
Mhm.
Cedric Gray's been out with a shoulder. He's a 4th-round pick. He's going to make the team. But does Otis Reese find that other spot? Or do you like James Williams' potential better? Otis Reese might be able to help you out more now. But if James Williams' ceiling is a little higher, maybe that makes the decision a little bit tougher for the Titans at that 5th inside linebacker spot, because I do think they will keep 5. So for me, it's the inside linebackers. Chance Campbell, I'm like heading into the preseason, I said, I don't know who it's going to be at inside linebacker, starters, depth, whatever. But I just hope that some of these guys come out and put their stamp on it and erase any questions I have about their particular role. And Chance Campbell has done that. He is absolutely your inside linebacker 3. He has earned that role. And who knows what happens during the regular season. This is a guy who's dealt with injuries most of his professional career. So if he can get some momentum, if he can kind of pick up this scheme, he plays with instincts. He can do both, rush the passer, make tackles, as well as cover a little bit too. We saw that with his interception at the end of the game a couple weeks ago. But it's James Williams, Cedric Gray, Otis Reese. Those three guys, I think 2 of them make it. It's just
I think you're leaving somebody out though, because when you're talking about Luke Gifford is somebody who has a very strong chance to make this team. Now, this kind of brings me to a comment that I saw before we actually went live, and then we'll get back to inside linebacker conversation, because we do have a question to ask you guys about the inside linebackers, plus some of what Brian Callahan had to say about 2 rookies. But Nick says, why do the Titans have so many concussions? Because Luke Gifford got a concussion, ironically, on the first kickoff of this new kickoff rule designed to limit and to lower the concussion rate. Luke Gifford made a big hit on that kickoff coverage unit, big tackle, got a concussion. And there's other concussions. Jabari Small's in concussion protocol. Josh Wiley's in concussion protocol. I believe there's another player that I'm escaping my mind right now. But, here's my, Jack, I told you before we went live, a half-baked theory. I don't even know if I think I've preheated the oven, but I don't think I've even put what I'm baking in the oven yet. Like, that is how little I've baked or developed this theory on concussions. But I'm going to throw it out there anyway, because I think it's fun. Every NFL team is practicing wearing the big mushroom heads Guardian caps. And now you've seen 2 concussions happen in 2 games for the Titans players, in Gifford and Jabari Small. Josh Wiley got his concussion protocol in practice with the Guardian cap on. So I don't know. Is this something like you're wearing the Guardian cap in practice, and so when the real thing happens in the game, it affects you more? Like that, honestly, it's the oven is preheating on this theory. So not even baked. I've just got it in the baking dish waiting for the oven to beep. So that is my theory on that. I don't know how you feel about it, but Guardian caps in practice might be not allowing, or might be, the big hits in the game without the Guardian cap feel too much. Thoughts?
DeMario says, not calloused enough. He doesn't like the Guardian caps because it's not the real thing.
Right.
In practice, maybe guys get a little comfortable putting their head in harm's way or leading with their head. I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to put that in the oven either, but it is interesting. It's an interesting point to bring up.
I need more data. I need to, and look, Derek says that's the craziest theory. I mean, I don't know. The crazies theory. Maybe I fall under the crazies conversation in that department. But I think, I don't know. It's just something that I'm going to monitor because, right. I feel like concussions have ramped up for the Titans roster over the last couple of weeks. So,
tinfoil hat Tuesdays. I like it.
Jay Parch says, what's going on with Cedric Gray? That is what we're going to get to next, because Cedric Gray is hurt. Brian Callahan was asked about that. We're going to toss out another question for you guys here too. Which 2 inside linebackers do you think will make the Titans team between Cedric Gray, Otis Reese, James Williams, or Luke Gifford? I think there's 2 spots between those 4 players. So 2 spots, 4 players. That's what we're going to get to here in a second. But first, Jack, it's the first time you've heard about this on the show officially. Told you about it last week. But hey, we've partnered with the DeAndre Hopkins Youth Football Camp and pumped about what's gonna happen with this. And we will talk to DeAndre Hopkins at his football camp September 1st at Nissan Stadium, 1 week out of the Titans' first game against the Bears. And if you want your son or daughter wants to get out there and practice and train on an NFL field with a future Hall of Fame wide receiver, it is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and DeAndre Hopkins is pumped about this opportunity to have this camp. It came together really quickly here, and we're excited to partner with DeAndre Hopkins Youth Football Camp. It's just over $100 after taxes and fees. But I tell you what, code ATOZ20 is going to save you 20% on the fees. So that's like a DeAndre Hopkins football camp with D-Hop for 80-something bucks on an NFL field. You get to go out there and look at the new turf that they've had now going into the second season. So check it out. I'm posting the link right now in the chat. I've posted the link right in the chat. That is the link to sign up, and you use code ATOZ20 to save 20% on the DeAndre Hopkins Youth Football Camp. I'm excited about this, talking with our girl Amy later today, who's helped running this camp. We're going to have some more information moving forward on how we can really help you guys out. But 9-year-olds through 15-year-olds, boys or girls, September 1st. The information's right there in the link. 20% off with code ATOZ20 for the DeAndre Hopkins Youth Football Camp. Jack, to the chat you go. Which of the two inside linebackers you think or do you want to make this football team between Cedric Gray, Otis Reese, James Williams, or Luke Gifford?
Major Keys starts us off on YouTube, says Cedric Gray and James Williams. Eric Steele agrees with him. So does Chris Jump. Brandon Dozier says Cedric didn't play well when healthy. Right now, he's got Williams and Reese easily in front. Haven't seen Gray, so James Williams by default is what Curtis is saying here. We've got Cedric Gray and James Williams. Gray to the IR. Williams and Gifford on the team. You don't think that Cedric Gray's injury is significant enough to land him on IR, do you?
Let's go through the logistics of what would have to happen. Because if you put a player on injured reserve now, they're done for the season. Marlon Davidson torn his biceps. The Titans put him on IR last week. He's out for the entire year. There's no chance to come back. Now, if the Titans wanted to stash Cedric Gray and think that he might miss 4 or more games, then you have to have him make the initial 53-man roster, then put him on injured reserve. That means he could come back after a minimum of 4 games. So that's the logistical details on that. Roger says Gray to the practice squad. So you're going to cut your 4th-round pick, who is currently injured, and then have him clear waivers to get the practice squad, albeit he hasn't had a lot of opportunity to prove much of anything. And I think Sam brought something up yesterday when we were talking about Malik Willis and waivers, is that a positional player like a linebacker or a defensive back or a tight end is more likely to get claimed on waivers than a quarterback who gets cut, because you can bring in a cut linebacker or DB to do some special team stuff for you pretty quickly. But I don't know if Cedric Gray hadn't done anything, right? He's been out since these games started. So it's really tough to think about that.
And that's frustrating because, you drafted him and a lot of Titans fans thought that he would push for that starting job, and he hadn't really been out there a whole lot. So something to monitor there. Otis Reese and James Williams, Amar believes, will be the last 2 inside linebackers, Gray and Williams. Otis and James Williams from Big Lou. We've got Campbell and Gray. Campbell's a lock at 3, and the Titans are probably going to keep 5. So Campbell, Gray, who's going to be that 5th? That's kind of what we're talking about right now. Gray, Williams, Gray, and Williams. Gray's going to make the team. He was touted as a linebacker capable of wearing the green dot. Gray and Gifford. This is our first Gifford answer here. Thinks James Williams is headed to the practice squad, and Otis Reese is cut. Now, Darius disagrees. He thinks Otis is going to get that final spot. We've got here Williams and Gifford. A lot of Grays, and I agree with them. I think that Gray is absolutely a lock. Gifford's catching a little steam here. To me, and it's not even just my Ole Miss bias. It's like the guy who's made the most plays in the preseason so far, and it's a guy that our guy James Foster is high on. Mike Herndon, 2 guys that I trust. I think that Cedric Gray is your 4th. In a perfect world, when he is healthy, when he is back up to full speed, Cedric Gray would be inside linebacker 4, if not inside linebacker 3. We'll see how he kind of comes along in his rookie season. But I think Otis Reese gets that final spot. I think he's earned it. I think he's done enough. I think he's done more than anybody else that's competing for that final spot in James Williams and Luke Gifford. Gifford's concussion certainly doesn't help things either. So I think that right now, as it stands, Otis Reese would be my 5th inside linebacker.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Let's hear, before I get to my answer, let's hear from the head coach again when he was asked about James Williams, the rookie 7th rounder, and then a follow-up about Cedric Gray. So a long answer, but I think 2 players that are very interesting, 2 rookies here.
Not sure if James Williams knows how good he can be at the linebacker position. Kind of flashed some more of that potential last night. I guess, what were the traits that you honed in on when you guys were scouting him that you identified as good enough to be a contributor in the league, and what does he need to do to be a rotational guy in that way?
I think got to give a lot of credit to the to the scouting staff and then our defensive coaches that evaluated him too. They felt like he had the traits to move into the box and play linebacker. Obviously had some development to go, but to have the foresight in the scouting process to recognize that and see it. And then, you take a 7th round pick on a guy that's got developmental potential. It's exactly what you want to do with those picks. And so really well done on the scouting staff and by our coaching staff to agree on that they saw something in him worth investing in. He's just the thing for him is he's got to learn. He does things really, really fast in practice, and he does a lot of really great stuff. And then he slows in the game a little bit. And so it's more just getting comfortable playing, with your eyes as a linebacker in the box. It's a different style than even what a safety does when they're down in the box. So that development will be key for him, but he's come a long way in a really short amount of time. I think Frank Bush, we're lucky to have Frank. I think Frank's is an elite linebacker coach, and I think you see that by how those guys have developed and played. And so I think Frank's a huge part of that developmental process, and James is really taken to it. So obviously a long way to go for him, but a lot of potential, I think, to be a really good inside linebacker.
On the topic of linebacker, Cedric Gray is somebody that a lot of fans had high hopes for. He's been injured and not around. Is he at risk of falling too far behind in this process? What do you make of him so far?
Yeah, it's not good when you miss that amount of time. Can you make up the ground? Sure, it's not impossible. But yeah, there's a point where you'd like to see you got to get out there and play. And I think one of Cedric's strengths is that he's instinctive, and just playing football is something that he's good at. And to miss 2 opportunities in the preseason to see that, I think is tough for him. The injury, you can't do anything about the injury. It's not his fault. But yeah, that's just the nature of training camp, and the nature of football is that sometimes an injury can hold you back. And the guys like James and Chance are getting a lot of opportunities to show that they're up to the task as well. So I wish we had a chance to look at him, but that's just the nature of it.
Look, I think a lot of good things about James Williams, and then, it's not good, not great. Can he catch up? Yeah, but it's going to be tough about Cedric Gray, your 4th round pick, who I think a lot of us expected to be a day 1 starter or pretty close to it out of the gate. So we're asking the question, how do you round out the inside linebacker number 4 and number 5? We all believe, I think the majority of us, high majority, believe that Kenneth Murray, Jack Gibbons, and Chance Campbell are the top 3 inside linebackers on this team. You've got 2 more spots. Cedric Gray's a 4th round pick, a high 4th round pick early on day 3 of this draft. He's been hurt, not his fault. And I will go back, and Frank Bush said that, told Sam that Cedric Gray was starting to have it click before the shoulder injury. So what does that look like? We have to find out. I think Cedric Gray is going to make the roster because you don't just cut a top 110 pick like that because of an unfortunate injury that's really not his fault. So they got 1 spot. And so, Jack, I'm going to go and answer the question because you gave the last spot to Otis Reese.
Right.
2 Ole Miss guys in your 5 linebackers, right? No bias at all.
No. Well, no, but seriously, those 2 have made the most plays in the preseason.
And look, they have. They have been the flashiest, the most productive inside linebackers, and really you can maybe say defenders on the team in 2 preseason games. Jack, I'm looking at the draft picks. I think James Williams is the only guy who will not make the 53-man roster of the draft class. And it's not, because that's not a bad thing. I think James Williams will clear waivers. I think the fact that he is in a position change from safety to linebacker is a benefit to the Tennessee Titans, because I have to ask the question, if you're going to cut two of these guys between James Williams, Otis Reese, and Luke Gifford, who is least likely to clear waivers? And Bork nailed it. Luke Gifford won't clear waivers. Some team will sign veteran special teams linebacker Luke Gifford on their roster to play immediately on all 4 special teams units, because that's what he does. He's plug and play. He's fast. He's big. He's a lot bigger than I expected him to be. And he's done this for a while. So my 5th inside linebacker initially is Luke Gifford, because let's also remember this about Otis Reese. He's in year 2 of a position change. He was a safety at Ole Miss that Mike Vrabel and staff were converting to linebacker. So you've got James Williams and Otis Reese, who I think have pretty high ceilings and are still developmental prospects. But you can get those guys on the practice squad, because I don't think a team is going to go out there and sign Otis Reese or James Williams in a position change to their active 53-man roster. I think both of them are on your 16-man practice squad. And I think that's a great thing, because maybe Luke Gifford, and what if Cedric Gray needs to go on IR for 4 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
Then
Gifford's already had the concussion,
Right now, but now you've got 2 guys who can be in-house and you can bring up to do special teams if you need it, while you have, Kenneth Murray, who's at a good camp, Jack Gibbons, and Chance Campbell right there too.
Yeah. In a perfect world, you keep all 3 of these guys, right? I mean, you heard Callahan say, like, in practice, James Williams plays fast, man, but in the games, he's still thinking a little bit. And if you can keep him on the practice squad and kind of get him up to speed, I do think that James Williams will play on Sundays for the Titans at some point this season. It may not be week 1, but I do think there's going to be a role for him on game days at some point this year. Andre Bunting asked a good question, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Would it be worth it to keep 6 inside linebackers instead of that 7th wide receiver? It would really help if D-Hop could come back and get a weekend of practice before that week 1 game. But what are your thoughts on this? Would a 6th linebacker be more valuable than a 7th wide receiver?
I would probably go 7 receivers then before I would go 6 inside linebackers. Because also, let's remember this. I think the Titans will have 1 inside linebacker on the field in a significant chunk of defensive snaps.
Okay.
Because that's who's coming off a lot of times in nickel, especially in dime. And they've done that, right? Kenneth Murray's the lone inside linebacker, and you bring in you have Roger McCreary. He's also a base starter as a nickel, but you bring in Jamal Adams, right, for that second inside. So I would go 7th receiver over 6th inside linebacker. I think that's what they would be more likely to do. 6 inside linebackers is just a ton.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right. That's what they would be more likely to do. But I just, I think it's a fair question, because if Mason Kinsey isn't returning kicks or punts, then the special teams value of whoever that 6th linebacker would outweigh Mason Kinsey's special teams ability. Obviously, they're different types of players, but I don't know. I think it's a fair question. You're probably not going to keep 6 inside linebackers, especially when you've got like a guy like Jamal Adams kind of playing in a box safety role. Yep. It's going to help you out at that spot as well. Absolutely. So I'm with you. I think it's more likely you keep 7 receivers, but I do think it's an interesting question, and I think you can make a case for both sides of that argument.
Yeah. I really don't think 6 inside linebackers is a possibility at all. I think that would be, because I don't think who is going to claim James Williams or Otis Reese on their 53. I think that's, and Sam and I talked through this yesterday when talking about Malik. If you cut Malik, is anybody going to sign him on their active roster as a quarterback 3 or 2? No. We went through some of the options. It's just not going to happen, because why? There might be I think you can get Malik Willis. I think you can get Mason Kinsey. I think James Williams and Otis Reese can be 4 of your 16-man practice squad, and throw your guy, the Narv dog, on there too, to make 5 out of 16. And we're getting close to filling up the whole P squad.
Man, I love me some Narv dog. I'll tell you that much. What a game. Oh my gosh.
What a game. What a game. Andrew, man, you guys keep teeing us up for our next conversations, because Andrew asked, what about keeping 4 tight ends? Well, Andrew, Here's what we're going to talk about next. Brian Callahan was asked about that. And I think it's a really interesting answer because there's a particular player who is pushing hard for a roster spot. So let's just ask the audience this since Andrew teed it up. Should the Titans keep a fourth tight end in this new offense? So we'll dive through that conversation here in a second. But the Bone and Joint Institute is where you should turn for any injury situation that pops up with you, someone in your family. Maybe your son or daughter, unfortunately, gets hurt playing youth sports, because injuries happen in life just like they do in sports. And you have to know who you can trust and turn to whenever that injury pops up. Maybe it's an old injury that you've had years ago, right? And it just won't go away. Maybe that shoulder, that back, whatever, the hip is starting to bother you. And like, yep, that happened back in the high school ball days, right? Well, go to the Bone and Joint Institute to get that thing fixed, because I've done the same thing with them over the last several years with my knee, with my foot, shoulder, my other knee too. And the Bone and Joint Institute has all the experts and the resources in one spot off I-65 and Highway 96, right next door to Williamson Medical Center, where you can go do the clinics, do the surgeries, do the rehab, do all the testing in one spot. They've also got physical therapy facilities across Williamson County and growing. And you can book an appointment with a super easy website to navigate online, boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM.com, the sports book born in Vegas. Sign up using our code A to Z Sports, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. This is the week to sign up if you're going to get some skin in the game. College football is back on Saturday.
Oh, wow,
you can still get ahead of things with some future bets, whether that's win totals, college football playoff berths, Heisman's, whatever you want on the college football side of things. You can do it all on BetMGM. Same with NFL. Will Levis passing props right around 3,400 yards. Are you kidding me? That might be a hammer for some people. Download the BetMGM app. You sign up using our bonus code. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
All right, yeah. We let's see. This might be a show that we do next week, Jack, because you and I texted over the weekend 3 particular props on BetMGM with the Titans. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, I might take 2 of these 3, but let's do that next week one day before as training camp ends and roster cuts happen. Okay, back to the show topics here. Should the Titans keep a 4th tight end on the roster? Before we get to the answers from the chat, Jack, let's hear from Brian Callahan for the last time on David Martin Robinson and 4 tight ends, because he did say after the game Saturday that David Martin Robinson, rookie out of Temple, is pushing for a spot. Here's Callahan.
Talk a little bit about the development of David Martin Robinson and the possibility of 4 tight ends. But how hard is 4 tight ends when 11 personnel is what you're running a lot of the time?
Yeah, I mean we'll run a lot of 11 personnel, but we have plenty in the 12 and 13 world that we've have part of our package, and so I would say that for us, just you'll get to talk to Rand, I think, at some point here after the cut down, but the philosophy from the end of the back of the roster, that those last 6-7 spots is going to be less about checking the box that we have a 5th safety or a 4th tight end or whatever those numbers are going to be, and just finding the best players regardless of the position. And so we're trying to make sure that we don't lose a player that we think could be really good just because we need to check a box on a number. And we're trying to make sure that we do the right job evaluating those players. And so I don't think it'll be hard to keep 4 tight ends if that's what we decide to do, because I think if we do that, then that player will have earned that roster spot. He's worthy of the 53 spot.
So here, I'll say this, Jack. The Titans, I don't think, have a need to keep 5 safeties, because he brought that up. I think you've got Hooker, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams, Elijah Molden. I don't think you need a 5th safety. So there's a spot. Now, where does it go? Do you keep Malik Willis as quarterback 3, or is that another spot? I think they're pretty thin on the D line. Do they keep 9 offensive linemen or 10 offensive linemen? Because we'll talk about the tackles a little bit later too. And the corners, as you guys can probably tell by the graphic under Jack. We'll talk about the corners here in a little bit. But 4 tight ends, Jack, what's the chat saying? We basically ask, yes or no to 4 tight ends in this new offense. It's going to run a lot more 3 wide receivers.
Jody and JR say no to a 4th tight end. Willie, Christian both say yes. Yuri's on a no. Hunter, IR Hoshi. Ross says no. He wants 3, but he wants DMR over Vanett. Let's see. We got Jason Martinez on Facebook saying no, he'd rather them keep an extra linebacker because that position is weaker than the tight end group. No, I don't think a fourth tight end is utilized in this offense. We got two run blockers, two pass catchers. Making the case for four tight ends is Edward. Eric Castillo's telling us DMR, man. We've got no to four tight ends. Darius says no, he likes the player, but he thinks they're going to keep Vanett. Vanett obviously is going to be a primarily blocking, or Vanett, primarily a blocking tight end. Yes, an extra tight end is more valuable than ever with the new kickoff rule. So Bork adding some nuance to this conversation.
Okay. So like I mentioned earlier with Mason Kinsey conversation, I watched pretty closely that kickoff drill between the Titans and Seahawks because I wanted, when you're watching on TV or maybe if you're at the game, it's hard to see like who's out there taking those reps on both kick cover and kick return teams. It's, I think, the second most popular body position type out there is tight end. You see a lot of linebackers and you see tight ends on both of those teams, kickoff and kick return. So there's something to that because you want bigger, stronger bodies who can block, get off blocks, be physical and fast enough. You don't see any offensive linemen. There were some thoughts about that. Would they put offensive linemen on kick return? Nope, zero, none of them. So that I think is interesting. I guess, what do you think, Jack? We'll just jump into your opinion. Four tight ends, and there's a few in there that think Nick Vanett should make this team over DMR because of what David Martin Robinson has shown catching the football in 2 games.
I lean towards no on keeping a fourth tight end. I don't know how valuable a fourth tight end would be for the Tennessee Titans. You've got a guy in Chig who gets it done between the tens when he's consistent, which should be a little more often this season. You got Josh Wiley, who's a red zone threat, big dog. He can help move the chains on third down. He can give, the Titans offense a bit of a different look that defenses don't really see a whole lot. And then Vanett, as I try and get my pronunciation right there, he's going to be your blocking guy. Look, DMR's a good player, but just kind of like you talked about with James Williams and Otis Reese, I think if you do cut them, I do think that DMR, if he's cut, you could get back through waiver. I don't think that he's going to get picked up anywhere. So that's why I think you keep 3. I think that there is potential in DMR that you should, dive further into with more time. So I think he'd be a valuable addition to this practice squad.
Yeah.
But I just don't see them keeping 4 for week 1 in Chicago. I think there's bigger needs at different position groups.
I agree. Absolutely. So Chig is a 5th round pick. Or no, Chig was a 4th round pick. Wiley's a 5th round pick. Chig is entering year 3, still waiting for him to truly arrive. We've seen glimpses and flashes and big plays and great stuff, and we've seen the bad. This is year 3. Josh Wiley, this is year 2. He only had 7 catches, I think, last season. But I like him to have a big jump this year. Tight end is a complicated position. Just like I said with Otis Reese and James Williams are not going to be claimed through waivers because they're going through position changes. I don't think an undrafted rookie tight end is going to get claimed on waivers like you're saying too. So I think now all of a sudden we've gotten 6 of the Titans' 16 practice squad members. I think we're doing a lot of good work here on this.
And team. It's a good practice squad. It's shaping up to be a good core of the practice squad, right?
Yes.
I mean, these are all guys that could help you on Sundays at some point this year.
We've got Kinsey on the practice squad, James Williams, Otis Reese, DMR. Who am I forgetting? Narv Dog, and then Malik Willis.
Mm-hmm.
So there you got a quarterback, a kicker, 2 inside linebackers, a tight end, and a wide receiver, and all those position guys outside of the quarterback and kicker are playing special teams in a pinch. And so Nick Ewing asked, who is tight end 3? It is Nick Vanett. Nick Vanett is the best blocker of any of the tight ends. I mean, maybe Thomas Okoye, I don't know. But I think Nick Vanett is a better blocker out of anybody. And so if you're going to have a 3rd tight end, he's got to be a good blocker and he's got to be a veteran. And so it's going to be Nick Vanett as a 3rd. I think they value his experience to go along with 2 younger guys in Chig and Wiley.
All right, so we both agree there. We like the player. We want to see more from DMR, but not yet worth spinning an active roster spot on.
So Rossi brings us up because we talked about it a couple times. Earlier we asked about 7 wide receivers. Mason Kinsey would be our 7th. Then we had the conversation of would you keep 6 inside linebackers or 7 wide receivers? We both said 7 wide receivers. Would you keep 7 wide receivers or 4 tight ends?
7 wide receivers.
I think so too.
Mm-hmm. With the D-Hop stuff especially. And like I mentioned,
Well,
you've got 3 tight ends.
Wiley's in concussion protocol too.
Yeah, no, I understand. But you do have 3 tight ends. Say Wiley gets back. I think he'll be back and ready for week 1. You've got 3 different tight ends who can help you in different ways. That's a versatile group of tight ends you already have. I just don't – I think that DMR being a 4th tight end would be a bit redundant to the skill sets that some of these guys have that are absolutely going to make the team.
Yep. All right, A to Z Sports. We've got 2 more spots to go. We've got 4 position battles still up for grabs. We've talked through We've talked through inside linebacker, now tight end. We've got 2 more to go. And honestly, Jack, I think these are the 2 positions the Titans have the worst depth in. And I'll just say that very bluntly. We'll talk about it here in a second. We do need more people to like the show because I don't know what's going on. Like guys on YouTube, we got a nice big YouTube audience. We need more people to like the show. If you have the live chat up on your phone on YouTube, maybe that's why you haven't liked it yet. If you hit the X in the top right of the live chat, then you can hit the like button. Then you can pull the chat back up there. We need more likes in the show, guys. Almost 200 people watching right now have not liked the show yet. That's a terrible, terrible ratio. Okay, now let's talk about.
We'll stop bugging you about it.
Yeah. If you do that, then I'll shut up. So, all right. So the 2 positions that I think the Titans have the worst depth at here in a second. But first, Farm Bureau Health Plans is where you to have really good depth with your health coverage. And they can help you lower your rates, but have better coverage for you, your family, whatever your life situation is. If you're single, independent contractor, entrepreneur, out there battling the marketplace for health coverage, go to Farm Bureau Health Plans. If you're you and your spouse have a young and growing family, they can take care of you there. Or maybe you and your spouse, empty nesters, need that next level of coverage. Farm Bureau Health Plans can literally do it all. They've been serving Tennesseans for over 78 years and can do anything for you. No cookie cutter plans, all customized to your situation to be the best bang for your buck. Lower your rates, better coverage. Lower your rates, better coverage. Check them out online. Get a quote today using our link, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
BetMGM.com. Use our bonus code A to Z Sports when you sign up. Guys, there's college football here this weekend. I think I like Montana State to cover the number against New Mexico in a little FCS versus FBS upset. Or I guess it wouldn't be an upset considering Montana State's favorite. But look, you can get in on all the action at BetMGM. Just sign up with our bonus code A to Z Sports and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. I know y'all are going to spray the board. Your first bet might miss. So get some insurance. Use our bonus code A to Z Sports when you sign up with BetMGM.
All right, Jack. I think the Titans have the worst depth at cornerback and at offensive tackle. And those are 2 positions that play on an island because, you can't hide bad play at corner and it's hard to really hide bad play at offensive tackle. And I think Titans fans over the last 2 years can say, yeah, I've seen that. And so here's the good thing. NPF has been a pleasant surprise since he's returned to injury. I think he's played pretty well. JC Latham, 7th overall pick. I think he has the potential to be a good player. He is going to continue to get better. He wins more reps than he loses right now as a rookie, which is really all you can ask for at this point. After that at tackle, I think you got a bunch of not great. And now let's flip the cornerback. The good thing about your cornerbacks is that L'Jarius Sneed's a dog. Cheeto Awuzie is also a dog. They're both dealing with injuries. Cheeto should be back. Sneed's just being managed. After that, I think I like Roger McCreary quite a bit. And I think he is going to be in the right spot for him with good players around him. I think Roger McCreary can have a really good year. I love Jarvis Brownlee Jr. as a 5th-round pick rookie. I think this guy has a chance to really take what L'Jarius Sneed does and apply that to his game. I'm not saying he's going to be L'Jarius Sneed, but their skill sets are very similar. Can Jarvis Brownlee grow up and be that 4th corner? I think there's a good chance for that to happen. After those 4, I think you got a lot of garbage at corner, including the guy on the graphic next to the Titans logo and Trey Avery.
Gosh, I mean, I was at the game on Saturday, Austin, and Trey Avery getting burnt for another touchdown. It's just a sight Titans fans have become a little too familiar with. But the problem is, who's going to take that spot? There's not a guy that I feel confident in behind Jarvis Brownlee. You've got Eric Gare, you've got Trey Avery, Caleb Farley's hurt. Gabe Judy Lawley, UDFA, he was fun in rookie minicamp, hasn't really impressed after that. So I honestly think that the guy that will, I don't think that Trey Avery is going to make this football team. I don't. I think the guy who fills those shoes is not currently in-house. I think once these massive cut downs come, the Titans are going to go out there and find a guy that, can hold up their end of the bargain a little bit better than Trey Avery that's coming from somewhere else. Maybe it's a crowded cornerback room on the NFC side. Maybe it's somebody Callahan's worked with before. Maybe it's somebody Denard Wilson's worked with before. But Trey Avery making this football team that's not the right direction the Titans need to go in. You got to find an answer there. It's probably got to come from outside of the building because Eric Gare doesn't excite me. Gabe Judy Lawley doesn't excite me. I think you got to go fishing. That's kind of how I'm looking at it right now.
Jack, I don't disagree, but that's a lot easier said than done. Because what NFL team is going to make a roster-worthy corner and a roster-worthy offensive tackle available? Those guys don't get cut,
But is Trey Avery a roster-worthy player, or is he just the best you've got behind the good? Like, is he just at the top of the trash heap?
He's the best. Great question, because now my mind is in a pretzel. It's not burnt like the toast on the graphic. I think I like Eric Gare. Of the options at the back end of the corners, I think Eric Gare is the fifth best. But he's not an outside guy. He is a backup to Roger McCreary. And really, for being honest, you've got Jamal Adams and Elijah Molden who can play that better than Eric Gare. But I like Eric Gare and what he represents. He's kind of like your Mason Kinsey on defense, to be honest. So I think Eric Gare is on the team. And I'm okay with Eric Gare being on the team. I'm not okay with Trey Avery being on the team. But Jack, he's going to make the team. He's going to make the team. I mean, he gave up to a guy whose first name is a touchdown to a guy whose first name is Aesop.
It could be a popular name after that touchdown. I get it. Like,
22 years from now, you're going to have draft picks with the name Aesop because of what happened in Nissan Stadium.
If Trey Avery's lining up against him every Sunday, yeah, you might. But hopefully that won't be the case. Like right now with what the Titans have, sure, Trey Avery fits in your top 6 cornerbacks. It sucks to admit, but that's just what you're dealing with. You don't have depth at that spot. Trey Avery at least has experience. Now, a lot of that is traumatic to Titans fans and probably traumatic to Trey Avery himself. But with what you have in-house, sure, Trey Avery makes the team. I refuse to believe a guy like Rand Carthon, who has been active at every turn this offseason, rolls into the season with what they have on the backside of that cornerback room. I think that he's going to look everywhere for upgrades across the board. And cornerback will be one of the first positions I believe he will address after final cutdown day. So I'm really crossing my fingers that Rand Carthon has a plan for somebody out there who might become available over the next couple of weeks to replace Trey Avery, to maybe take that spot from Eric Gare, because your CB 5 and 6 right now are not competent.
Yeah, real quick to clear this up. No, Eric Gare is the Mason Kinsey on defense, not Trey Avery. And it's not that, like, me saying that Eric Gare is the Mason Kinsey of the defense is a compliment to Eric Gare, just to clear that up. Because it's the person that can do a lot of things, who practices hard, who will work hard and go in and do some good things on special teams, but is probably doesn't have the traits to ever be a every week contributor. Like, the ceiling is lower. Not just because Eric Gare is 5'8",
And Titans Kyle asks, what about a free agent that's kind of hanging around right now, like Jalen Mills? I truly believe that Jalen Mills is kind of like Ryan Tannehill. Sure, he could probably sign somewhere, but why do it now? Why not wait for that first injury to happen where a team needs a starter? I'm sure that's the situation that Jalen Mills, who's been a Pro Bowl caliber player for a handful of years, would like to kind of fit in. So I don't know that the Titans right now, as things are currently constructed, makes sense for Jalen Mills, but if something happens, I'm sure he's going to be one of the first calls of the of the regular season.
Yeah. So all right. So we talked through corner. I think the last two corners on the roster, which would make 5 and 6, would be Eric Garrett, Trey Avery. I think Gabe Jeudy-Lally, another undrafted free agent rookie, is probably our 7th guy on the practice squad at this point. All right, Jack, offensive tackle, because we talked about that, where I think the Titans are in a decent spot with their starters, with rookie J.C. Latham and third-year guy NPF, who I think has had a very solid start to his third season. People bring it up to Caleb Farley. Caleb Farley's not going to play. And here's the honest truth. When Caleb Farley was healthy, he was behind all the guys we're talking about. He was behind Trey Avery, behind Gabe Jeudy-Lally. He plays a different position than Eric Garrett. Caleb Farley was getting reps at practice with Robert Javier and Tay Gowan. And Tay Gowan can't stop holding receivers in practice and getting cussed out for doing it by Denard Wilson. And so Caleb Farley was never going to make this team. The option for Caleb Farley is for the Titans to put him on injured reserve, let him get half of his salary, and then let him move on as his contract expires in March. That is the human thing to do with Caleb Farley at this point, so we can go try to do something other than playing football.
Because you can't make the club if you're sitting in the tub.
Yeah, and he's paying rent in the tub right now. All right, so offensive tackle. NPF and J.C. Latham. I think backup tackles is really tough because I agree. I think going outside to finding a backup tackle would be ideal, but they've kind of already done that with Jaron Christian and Leroy Watson. And then you've got guys that were brought in-house in second year, 6th round pick, and Jalen Duncan, and UDFA from a year ago, John Ojukwu. I'll say this, John Ojukwu is getting cut. I don't think there's any chance that John Ojukwu is making the team. Now, when you're talking about Leroy Watson or Jaron Christian, the two veterans, versus Jalen Duncan, a second-year guy, I think that's kind of a roll of the dice of what you're going to get. I think all three of those guys can play decent. All three of those guys can get absolutely whooped on the line of scrimmage, and you don't know which play is going to be what. So I honestly, they're going to have a back, and this is your third tackle we're talking about.
Yeah, you're in bad shape if one of your top two goes down.
Yeah,
you're
this is a swing tackle, and you're like, I mean, like, Mike Vrabel would have kicked out Dylan Radins the right tackle and put Daniel Brunskill at right guard and called it a day, but Daniel Brunskill's not been taking many guard reps, and Dylan Radins has taken 0 tackle reps. But I don't think that's going to be the case for them.
Is Dennis Kelly still hanging around out there somewhere? I mean,
Dennis
seriously.
Probably. I mean, how old is Dennis Kelly? How old do you think Dennis Kelly is? I don't want to really screw him over because he's not that old. But
34.
The Titans traded for Dennis Kelly in John Robinson's first training camp, which was 2016. That was the same time period that Zach and I started our company, A to Z Sports. So, what'd you say his age was?
34. That's probably on the high end.
Dude, you are on it, man. You
really got it again, 34. Huh?
You are you're guessing kickoff return percentages from one year to the next. What else did you guess last week that was ridiculously on point?
Oh, somebody's age. I forget whose it was.
No, you missed.
It was
Tom Hardy's age.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
But you did hit something else too. That was just like, damn, Jack.
Yeah, I need to go buy a lottery ticket, I think.
Right? Yeah. So Dennis Kelly is 34 years old. I don't know the last time he's played in the league. Wait, he's currently with the Colts still?
That's news to me. Patrick Bird, Dennis Daly is going to be available. Dennis Daly's already available, to a surprise to no Titans fans. But the Cardinals cut Dennis Daly. I believe it was yesterday or the day before. But yeah, I don't think the Titans are going to go back down that road.
I don't think he's currently playing with the Colts. He didn't do anything last year.
I want to say he got hurt last year. I don't know.
Kelly had an off-season stint with the Eagles before playing in one regular season game with the Jets in 23. So nothing.
Either way, that ship has probably also sailed, right? I mean, I feel like it's funny as it is to joke about him probably being the best backup behind your two starters right now, just because of how things look inside that position group. But you're not really, like you said. I mean, whether it's Christian, whether it's Watson, whether it's Duncan, all three of those guys are going to live in my nightmares, and probably Will Levis is too.
Just hopefully neither of them have to play. I don't know. I think I literally cannot give anybody an educated answer on who's the best tackle out of Watson, Christian, and Duncan. I don't know. My gut is going to tell me that both Leroy Watson and Jaron Christian were brought in by Bill Callahan, and that Rand Carthon was a part of drafting Jalen Duncan. So
those are your tiebreakers.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't. But that doesn't tell me anything substantial. So I think corner and tackle are the two thinnest positions the Titans have, and it would be great if they could find somebody from the outside. But I just don't know who is going to be available that's better than what you have in house. So, all right, Jack, look, a lot of good things covered here on the show. Do have a couple super chats we have to get to before we get the shade. They came through after we talked about some other comments earlier in the show. Noah just says QB2 after the All 22 came out. Big eye emoji. I don't know what this means. I have not watched the All 22. That's not something I do because I don't have time for that. But I also have no idea what the context is of this comment. It could be good. It could be bad. I don't know. Do you know anything about this?
No clue whatsoever.
Okay.
Mason Rudolph is your QB2. So
yes,
maybe that's what it's about.
Does it mean that Mason Rudolph was good because the big eyes, or was he bad?
He was better than QB3, which is all he has to be.
That's right, for now. And I think Mason Rudolph's done just fine. TLG, super chat from earlier, says Chestnut is easier to replace than Hassan Haskins. The Titans acquired Foreman off his couch and revived his career. Harder to replace a special teams monster. I think that's a good comment. Again, I think that's what Sam and I talked through yesterday, that at times for us that are not watching or breaking down the film like coaches or other players in the league, being a special teams monster is not tangible unless you're returning kicks or making big tackles. And Hassan Haskins has not really made a big tackle on special teams since his rookie year. And so what is the different, like I said earlier in the show, what's the net? Who wins the net battle between Chestnut and Haskins to be the running back 3? I think that's something that's going to go down the wire, which, I think is interesting. So good conversations throughout the day here overall on the show. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up like we do every Tuesday with Throw in Shade. If you have shade, bring it in the chat. We'll read the best ones we can. Throw some shade to wrap up the show. Shout out Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Make sure you go see our guy Payne Bone and his team in Lebanon. Save some money when you go to Lebanon for your new ride. And check them out online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Jack, I'll send you the chat for some shade, or you can throw shade yourself, wherever you want to start, either you or the chat. Have at it.
Okay. I'll start with myself so we can get some more shades in before I dive into the chat. My shade, I haven't been on a Tuesday show in a minute since House of the Dragon ended, and I'm going to throw some shade at House of the Dragon. Season 2 could have been an email. I mean, honestly, like it started off so hot, and Damon was in the same place in Harrenhal the whole time. There was no development there, really. I mean, he was just he was going through his visions. You thought that you would at least get like a portion of the battle to wrap the season up, the big battle that's clearly coming up. It was a very disappointing season, and now I'm hearing they're extending it to 4 seasons. I thought the original plan was for them to film 3 seasons, but because you had a season 2 like you just did, you still got so much more to uncover. I haven't read the book, so no spoilers in the chat, please. But I was just highly disappointed with it. It was a nice prequel to one of my favorite shows of all time. I'm not a sci-fi guy, but this stuff pulls me in for some reason. But I was just highly disappointed with how House of the Dragon season 2 was. And the worst part about it all is now I'm going to have to wait till 2026 to see season 3. So I was just overall really disappointed in really the last few episodes of season 2 of House of the Dragon. So that's where my shade's going today.
Look, I know nothing about that, but Caps says good shade, Jack, and Darren says thank you, Jack. So at least you have those two guys who agree.
They
with
know
you.
ball,
Yeah, they know House of Dragons, right? I do not. I'll read some shade. Devin says throwing shade at grown-up jobs that hinder my A to Z viewing experience. Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but I don't know.
Watch us at work.
Yeah, watch it at work. You look, there's so many ways you can get like the tiniest Bluetooth known to man and listen to it, and then just have it. You keep it in your pocket on your phone or something. Bobby says throwing shade to all those people dogging Arden Key before his suspension was official. I think that's fair, but it's a weird situation. So I'm not gonna truly get upset at anybody with that because it was clearly just weird. Eric says throwing shade on Noah Lyles, acting like he doesn't know who Tyreek Hill is. I don't think he didn't act like he knew what Tyreek Hill was. I just think I don't know, weird.
I shaded him. I think he was my last shade. He's got to hire a PR team. He's got to become more likable.
Yeah. Bork says shade on his manager for firing him, even though he helped a new client have a record sales month and bring in the rest of their business in tens of thousands of dollars. I guess she felt threatened. Man, Bork, I'm sorry to hear that about that. Hopefully you can figure something out and be okay and land on your feet a little bit. Let's see. I'm seeing shade on DeMarco says shade on Will Levis 8 perfume de mayonnaise for running out of inventory. I'm still waiting on our 2 bottles to get to my house. I don't know what the ship time is. I don't think I've gotten an email notification that let me know that it's out there on the way. But Jack, do you want to read through some more shades?
Yeah, here, let me pull some up here. Let's see. Ooh, I don't know. Okay.
Andrew. Andrew
Yeah,
says...
I don't know if this was directed at us or who, but shade for Thin Skin Group admins. They suspend accounts because they can dish the disrespect but not take it. Maybe that's a Reddit thing. Could be Discord. I'm not sure, Andrew. But
could be
I
Facebook groups. I think it's I think because of Andrew's on Facebook, I think Facebook groups is the intended target.
Okay. Let's see. Carpet King and Flooring says shade on a customer. Told him that he'd give them a discount if they paid cash. They come in with a damn check. Cash is cash, people. Cash is king. Come on, man.
A check is cash, is it not?
I got you.
Is a check not cash?
No, cash is cash. The greenbacks.
Oh, okay. Cash. Yeah. No, yeah, you're right.
100%. Okay. Shade on.
Because you don't have to report cash.
True. That's probably why.
The check has to be deposited somewhere. It's going to get reported. So I guess that's it.
Shade on Caleb Murphy. He hasn't redeemed himself since he gave up that big penalty last season on special teams. He's a guy that a lot of people dubbed as their camp darling last year. He hadn't really been able to take the next step. Austin, how do you see kind of the rest of training camp shaking out for him? Is he even a practice squad guy?
Yeah, maybe. What special teams penalty does he have to what is she holding on to for a year? I don't remember Caleb Murphy making like a terrible. I just don't recall.
I'm trying to remember too. I can't think of it. Follow up with us, Patricia. Shade on Tennessee for not having an MLB team at this point. You're telling me, Devin. You're absolutely telling me. The Nashville Stars, it sounded like that was somewhat close to happening. Now it feels like it's nowhere close to happening. So I'm disappointed too. And to make matters worse, I mean, every player that I've ever loved on the Braves continues to just get hurt with terrible injuries. So Austin Riley's the latest. It's been a lost season for Atlanta. Shade on not being able to order number 8. Continuing to scroll here. Let's see if we got anything else. Shade on that Roland guy yelling at the camera. Dude, catch your breath. Okay. I probably shouldn't have read that. Shade on the Texans for not only stealing from our uniforms, but now stealing from the Falcons as well. Those uniforms stink. Have you seen those Texans uniforms he's talking about?
No,
they stink on ice. They're terrible.
I have not.
Oh, they're awful.
Real quick, Rashawn says, would love for you guys to do a film breakdown of the Seattle game from Malik Willis. He had a pretty good game, actually. That would not be us. That would be James Foster. So if you want to go to YouTube, A to Z Sports Film Room, A to Z Sports Film Room, that's where our guy James Foster breaks down film for not just the Titans, but the entire NFL and the NFL draft. I would do that because James is an expert. Jack and I are not film experts, but I do think Malik. I think Malik had a better game than what people looked at. My shade, Jack, is really tough for me because I don't necessarily think I have a super strong shade. I just have a minor inconvenience shade because my grocery store is currently out of one of my weekly staples. And I'm having to do a workaround because I eat the same thing for breakfast, for lunch,
I'm
and
trying to think of
snacks
what it could be.
every day. It is the best yogurt known to man, the best Greek yogurt created. And I think it's somewhat new on the market. It's called Ratio. It's a protein yogurt. It's got like 28 grams of protein per like 200 calories servings. And I eat a Greek yogurt protein parfait every day for lunch to go along with my scrambled eggs.
Okay.
And I have to adjust. And like, it's phenomenal tasting. It's perfect macros, vanilla flavored. And I don't know why it's out of stock, but I've been great with it for like the last 3 months. And so that's, it's my only shade that I have this week. Good things are happening. Like,
I got questions about this.
Okay.
Is this yogurt something you could find in Kroger, or do I got to go to like Trader Joe's or Turnip Truck, Whole Foods?
Publix.
Where do you find
Publix is usually where I get it. I get the big tub at Publix. You have to buy the individuals at Kroger, and I'm having to go grab individuals.
Okay. All right. Ratio. That's going to be on my list. I'm also
Really
in the trying to stack the protein up here.
Yeah.
So okay,
DeMarco
ratio is
asked,
going to be on my list.
So DeMarco says, so you have breakfast for lunch? Yeah, because my breakfast is a protein shake. That's all I eat until about 11:30 is a protein shake. And
Yeah, don't let the gains get in the way here. Protein. So protein. That's all we eat. What's dinner? What's a dinner look like for you?
It could be anything. Last night we had to throw something together real quick because it was late. All of a sudden it got late on us, and it's like, oh crap, we can't cook anything. So just little grilled cheese sandwiches and a salad was dinner last night. It was hit the spot, honestly. There's all types of dinners can be whatever, like, dinners. But if protein shake in the morning, get you going, get that, keep that intermittent fasting rolling, and then an apple, 3 scrambled eggs, and some salsa, and then a parfait with granola, pepita seeds, cranberries, blueberries.
Oh, pepita seeds, huh?
Oh yeah, dude. Roasted and salted pepita seeds. I'm telling you what, great.
I'm gonna be on the lookout for that. I truly will. Oh, one thing before we get out of here, I want to bring up Steve McNair drops today. Untold on Netflix. Titans fans, I'm gonna watch it. I don't know how I feel. I've really kind of been trying to process that. Like I don't know if I'm just excited to see it because I know how it's going to end, and I know it's going to bring up some bad memories, bad feelings. But I am hoping that they properly highlight like McNair and like who he was as a person, and what he did on the field and all that stuff. Obviously, the controversy is why they're doing it, but yeah, I don't really know how I feel about it.
Did you listen to the podcast that came out maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
I did. I listened to it twice. And it was a tough listen. Like, it was a really tough listen. That's kind of why I don't know how to feel about this today.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to be new, right? Because like for us that live in Nashville that are around the Titans all the time, we know a lot of the stuff, right? So is there anything different, new that's going to be in this one? Different angles, approaches, interview people differently. So I think that's going to be, I'm going to watch it just because why not? Mm-hmm. So Netflix, that drops today, right? Was it yesterday or today? The 19th or 20th? I remember that being one of the dates.
I think it was the 20th because I looked yesterday and I thought I saw release dates to August 20th. No idea what time. It might already be out. But
I haven't checked Netflix today.
Definitely something I'm sure Titans fans are going to tune into.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that'll be it for us on this Tuesday show. Great show today. Titans back on the practice field later tomorrow. Make sure you hit that like button before you head out of here. Great audience today, but we need more likes. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please do it for us. And we'll see you guys tomorrow on a Wednesday. Buck Rising live tonight, A to Z Sports Prime Time at 7 Central. And we'll see you guys tomorrow around 8 on a Wednesday. Appreciate it as always.
Tighten up pod out at midnight.